Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy with mitzvot and commands us to engage in words of Torah. This week's Torah portion, Achare Mot, is largely about the ritual of Yom Kippur. It is the section of Torah we read on Yom Kippur. And while it feels strange to talk about Yom Kippur right after Pesach, there does seem to me to be a parallel between the two. Right now, at this season, when we are counting the Omer that connects Passover with Shavuot, that is the coming out of Egypt, with the giving of the Torah at Sinai, we are, in a sense, reliving the process of becoming a people. We are journeying from Passover to Shavuot, from coming out of Egypt to Sinai. We are reliving the process of becoming a people and coming out of Egypt and entering into a covenant, establishing our purpose, entering into a covenant at Sinai. When we reach Yom Kippur, we are focused on repairing that covenant from all the many ways it has been broken, and rebuilding and re-entering into that covenant. So, as it is said in some Jewish mystical teachings, the spirit of every holiday can be found in each holiday. We see echoes of Yom Kippur in Passover and echoes of Passover in Yom Kippur. The Torah portion begins with a reference to the death of Aaron's sons, which we read about a few weeks ago. That is why the Parsha is called Achare Mot, literally meaning after the death of. So I'll read the beginning. The Lord spoke to Moses, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe Achare Mot Shnei bnei Aharon. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, when they drew near before the Lord and died. And the Lord said to Moses, Speak unto Aaron your brother, that he come not at all times into the holy place within the veil, before the ark cover which is upon the ark, that he die not. For I appear in the cloud upon the ark cover. With this shall Aaron come into the holy place, with a young bullock for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall put on the holy linen tunic, and he shall have the linen breeches upon his flesh, and shall be girdled with the linen girdle, and with the linen mitre shall he be attired. They are the holy garments, and he shall bathe his flesh in water and put them on. And he shall take of the congregation of the children of Israel 2 he-goats for a sin offering, and 1 ram for a burnt offering. And Aaron shall present the bullock of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make atonement for himself and for his house. So we see the beginning of so much of the detail of the sacrificial ritual connected with Yom Kippur that we read about on Yom Kippur. Just to recall, a few weeks ago we read from Leviticus 10, and Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took each of them his censer and put fire in it and laid incense upon it and offered strange fire, Esh Zara, before the Lord, which God had not commanded them. And there came forth fire from before the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord. There are many reasons that are offered to why this happened. Were their intentions impure? Were they drunk? Did they bring an inappropriate offering? It's really not clear. One explanation offered by Rabbi Joseph Hertz, who is the editor of this Chumash and who was the chief rabbi of the British Empire a century ago when he edited this book. One explanation is that it has to do with the misdirected zeal of youth. He writes, the story of Nadab and Abihu is a parable for young Israel in every generation. And then he quotes the Zohar saying, he who is affected to tears while reading this portion of the Torah, taking its teaching to heart, will win forgiveness for his own sins and the blessing of old age for his children. His language is a bit British. But the teaching resonates in every generation as young adults often display great idealism combined with very little perspective, a condition which plays out on campuses over and over again. In this week's portion, Aaron is told, Al yavo bechol et el hakodesh mi beit leparochet. Do not come at all times. Do not come at all times to the holy place from behind the parochet. Or it might be, do not come at any time. One translation is, do not come at will, that he may not die. Evidently, Aaron is being cautioned only to come at select times. Don't just come at any time. Come at the proper time, in the proper order, in the proper way. Perhaps this is meant as a caution not to direct religious zeal in a misdirected way. We have seen this sort of distortion of religion many times in history. Religious zeal can be misdirected toward violence, toward evil, rather than towards good. I have been reading a book called The Dynamics of Faith by the modern existentialist Protestant theologian Paul Tillich, who died in 1965. He writes of faith as the human expression of ultimate concern and totally inseparable from doubt. He writes that faith is not knowledge. And one of the most distorted ways that faith is described is faith as an act of knowledge with little or no degree of evidence. As if we don't have any evidence, but I just take it on faith. He says faith is not an act of knowledge with little or no degree of evidence. I think he is saying that faith is more about the act of entering into a commitment rather than about the object that the commitment is actually built around. He writes that faith is expressed through the use of symbols and signs which express an existential truth for the faith holder. It ultimately infuses our lives with meaning. Those signs and symbols are true because they enable the faith holder to grasp a truth about life and the human condition. So Shabbat is a sign. We just read in our prayers, Vishamru v'nei Yisrael, for Shabbat is a sign. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam. Between me and the children of Israel, it is a sign. Shabbat is about remembering what all of existence is about. Why are we doing any of this anyway? Why? And we say it's about celebrating that seventh day at the end of the 6 days of creation. And yet I'm sure most of us are invested in a geological and modern cosmological view of the creation of the world. So the narrative is not what grasps us. It is the meaning that we read into the story and we invest our lives into. We're talking about what life means and what meaning we find in existence. So this is faith speaking to us through a sign, Shabbat being a sign, and it only speaks to us through signs. He writes, we need to enter ourselves into the signs and symbols. We need to enter all of ourselves into the signs or symbols. We need to identify with the signs and symbols in order to connect with those truths which they're pointing to, those truths which are anchored in us and are part of us. Yet, the moment we equate the sign with absolute reality, the moment we say that this is the seventh of 6 days, literally, we have turned the sign into something demonic. We've turned it into something idolatrous. A religious symbol points us towards spiritual truth, but the symbol itself is not literally true. I think it is a Buddhist teaching which speaks of the finger that points to the moon. A religious sign or a symbol is a finger pointing to something beyond itself. We look at that and it points us to some bigger thing. But if we think it's all about the finger, then we've missed the point entirely. If Tillich is saying this, then I've been channeling him unknowingly for years. I've often noted that the word Torah has the root Yud Resh He, which means to shoot or to aim. And so Torah literally is a pointing. It is a pointing. The Torah book points us towards larger truths that are embedded in life. That is why Torah and the Sefer Torah, the book of the Torah, are of crucial importance to us as Jews. The book points us towards meaning in the world and meaning which exists in our lives and in our relationship to the world. But literalism and fundamentalism undermine the teaching and distort that Torah. One of the things that surprises me about the prayer of the State of Israel that is in the Reconstructionist prayer book, which we just recited, is that that prayer retained the opening description of Israel written by the Israeli chief rabbinate at the beginning of the state. It describes Israel, as do almost all Jewish denominational prayers for Israel, as Reshit Smichat Gulatenu, literally the beginning of the sprout of our redemption. I think they translated it slightly differently there, but that's how the Hebrew begins. The beginning of the sprout of our redemption. As if the state itself is the beginning of our redemption, as opposed to something important and hopeful, but theologically neutral. I note that in another Reconstructionist publication of the same series, Shirim Uvrachot, the volume of blessings and songs, the language is actually different. It says, Harachaman hu yivarech et midinat Yisrael im Yerushalayim yer HaKodesh v'yivien legu'ula shlema. May the merciful one bless the state of Israel with Jerusalem, the holy city. And most versions then say, Reshit Smichat Gulatenu, the beginning of the sprout of our redemption. But the Reconstructionist version says, and bring them both to complete redemption. So may the merciful one bless the state of Israel and Jerusalem, the holy city, and bring them to full redemption, rather than saying they are the agent of our redemption. That prayer claim seems to view the state of Israel as an important human institution of our people, and we pray that it too, along with the rest of us, may be brought to redemption. The state of Israel itself is not a divine creation or an act of God, but it can act for us as a symbol of hope that we may all find a path towards redemption. To claim that the state itself is an expression of divine redemption leads into religious nationalism. Rather, instead, we should understand the political structures of the state of Israel as a current means for the largest Jewish community in the world to exercise a measure of communal self-determination. And then we pray that the Jewish community will respond with righteousness. Otherwise, when the stones of the Western Wall themselves are seen as inherently holy, rather than as symbols that point us towards a transcendent sense of purpose, these stones become idolatrous. This principle is true for Jews, Catholics, Protestants, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, Baha'is, anyone. Let us remember that we are all walking towards something bigger than ourselves. And when you walk a religious path, it is actually not the destination that is of crucial import, but rather it is how you are walking on the path right now that is crucial. How you walk on the path right now is how you bring the eternal into the here and now. At this point on our calendar, we are engaged on the journey towards the symbolic but spiritually very real Mount Sinai, a mountain that quite appropriately has unknown geographic specificity, as in we honestly do not know where on earth Mount Sinai is. There is a place on the Sinai Peninsula that traditions say is Mount Sinai, but we don't know that that is Mount Sinai. It's interesting also that Mount Sinai, which presumably is this incredibly important point in Jewish life, is not in the land of Israel. It's outside the land of Israel. It's in the wilderness. It's in some undisclosed geographic place. But Sinai has been the North Star, so to speak, of our people's walk for thousands of years. And in this calendar time, as we walk, we count the Omer, as the Torah directs, 7 weeks of travel from the coming out of Egypt until reaching Sinai. And so we conclude with this blessing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitchanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy with mitzvot and commands us concerning the counting of the Omer. Hayom echad asar yom shehem shavua echad va'arba yamim la'omer. Today is the 11th day of the Omer, making 1 week and 4 days of the Omer. Shabbat Shalom.